Hello, CIs. What's going on? This is JP Miller with Career Inclusive, and we have got a resume review here for Machine and Deep Learning Engineer. Let's get into it. Par is working through his resume and trying to make it as strong as possible and make sure it can get past ATS, automated tracking software for resumes. So let's start at the header. Research was conducted some time ago concerning photographs and resumes, and the overwhelming finding has been that photographs are distracting in CVs. Most recruiters will only look at a resume for 6 seconds before making a decision to call or circular file that resume. Photographs make it easier for a recruiter to discriminate candidates based on appearance, distract the recruiter, and eat away your precious moments to convince the recruiter of your qualifications. Instead, the recruiter is more prone to make a decision based on your image rather than on the content of the document. So the general rule is to never include a photograph in a resume. The resume is a professional document. A photograph doesn't belong there. LinkedIn, on the other hand, is social media and should display a profile photo. On LinkedIn, where recruiters are prone to spend more time than on the resume, a photograph generates engagement with recruiters. In resumes, it tends to have the opposite effect, though. Remove the photograph unless you're applying in Germany or a country where a photograph is required. We'll remove the tagline as it brands Par as a student. It's very important to establish and protect your personal brand. Telling the recruiter that you're a student and a deep learning engineer is discongruent. These are opposing branding messages, and that confuses a recruiter, and a confused recruiter never calls. As a rule, avoid taglines. You're applying to the role that you want to be in, so this information becomes self-evident and redundant. Okay, let's move on to the summary statement. Like the tagline, I'm not a fan of summary statements. The only reason we use them is for freshers entering a fresh field and career changers. Par has 2 relevant internships and a slew of projects, so we're on the borderline of not needing a summary. But for this resume, since the work experiences are internships, we'll simplify the statement. Instead of this long statement that most recruiters are not going to read completely, we're going to edit it down to end-to-end machine and deep learning engineer focused on increasing performance through automation. This concise statement makes the summary easier for a recruiter to read through and allows them to move on to the rest of the resume faster. It establishes the brand, and then they can look at your projects and your experience. Speaking to the summary, the current summary, many companies won't be interested in performance increases that are below a certain threshold. Right? There's this whole cost profit analysis that occurs, and if an increase or some kind of an efficiency isn't projected to create so much profit or isn't projected to break even for the cost required to implement, then they're probably not going to build it. And it's best not to guess at what that percentage is, so just simply remove that from the summary. It's best to focus on what you have done and what you can do. Now, we can simplify the contact information here as well. In this resume, we have a phone number, email, location with a specific address, date of birth, and a few other links. In the resume, we only need to show the city and country or the state. In fact, if you live in a very popular city, or a very well-known city like London or Tokyo or New York or Chicago or LA, then you don't really even need the state or the country. Just list the city. That's enough. Never show your birthday or other personal information such as your marital status in the resume. It's not relevant to your candidacy. Your birthday, how old you are, is not relevant to your candidacy. Never show that in your resume. The only exception is if you're required by law to reveal your date of birth on the resume. But even then, I'm a rebel. I want to do it. Last note in the header section, consider typing out the URLs for the LinkedIn, GitHub, and Kaggle profiles. Many resumes are still printed today, and if this resume is printed, the hiring manager will lose the ability to access those online portfolios, and that can be very important. For the format of the resume, I would suggest using a single column format. This will help create a cleaner presentation, and we found that ATS has a harder time reading two-column resumes. Well, either way, under any circumstance, we'll want to flip the use of these bullet points. So use bullets to accentuate accomplishments under each entry. Bullet points, create strong organization and can help to create a cleaner look. So remove the bullets from the top level entries and use them here in the accomplishments. And the rule is one thought, one sentence, one bullet. To create meaningful project entries, I suggest limiting the number of projects to 4 or 5. For this resume, I'll say limit this to 5 project entries. This should allow us to write 2 to 3 bullets for each entry. Then in the work experience entries, we can list the companies and we can list the start and end dates. For current work, simply list the end date as current. In project and work experience bullets, let's work to quantify the statements to show concrete evidence of what you've accomplished. Think about the results of your work, the improvements you've created, and the accuracy of your models to tweak out quantities in your work. In the education section here, once you have entered university, you can remove high school. Early education is no longer relevant once you're in or beyond college. Now, I do understand that in some countries, specifically India, they do like to see a high school and a higher secondary. They want to see what those scars are. So follow the customs of your country. But if it's not required, then there's no need to show high school or secondary high school once you're in college. It's just not relevant anymore. Finally, in the skills section, we can save a few lines here by showing the skills in rows separated by commas. Verify that you're listing the appropriate skills by using JobScan. Just search for that online, JobScan, and compare your resume to the job description you're applying to and look at those critical keywords and be sure they are in your resume. If not in the skills section, then you want to hit those in the bullets. Okay, that's going to do it for this resume. Again, I'm JP Miller with Career Inclusive. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. You can also check us out at Facebook and LinkedIn. Say hello.